Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of image editing. So yesterday we did some scans on the CM and using the scan mat. And we need to resize those for our scrapbook layout. So I'm not going to be making the full scrapbook layout today just because of time. And I'm back live again at 10:04, Pretty Gets Gritty. So let me just see if I can see your comments. Okay, so I'm watching on Facebook, so if you're commenting on YouTube I may not be able to see you, so I do apologise. And morning Carol. So when we scanned our image, we scanned it so that we had a couple on the page at the same time, and this one in particular was up vertically rather than landscape. So I thought I would show you how we fix that. Nice and easy. We're going to go to document and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. We've also got a little bit of a white edge, so I'm just going to use the crop tool. So if you press C, you're probably going to the crop tool of your software. So I'm using Affinity Photo, but you could be using Photoshop, Corel Photo-paint, Gimp, Critter, anything like that where you are working with pixels rather than vectors. Morning Linda and morning Thea. Morning Jean. Morning Sally. I think we're up to date. So let's shrink this up slightly so we can just tweak that. Now it's important to do this before we do our resize so that we don't end up altering that size. So that's looking better. Now you can see that there's some banding going across our photo as well. So the scanner in the scanner cup was never intended to do image scans. It's okay for documents, but if you're doing something like photos, you're going to need to do a little work to make them look a little bit better. So what on earth? That was weird. Random noises from behind me. Oh, speaking myself out now. Okay, so first of all, you may find that your particular software has some auto settings that you can try, such as auto contrast, auto colour and so forth. You can use those if you wish. If you're not confident with amending your images, then that's the way to go for you. Now first of all, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking the contrast is all over the place because the darks here don't look dark enough and the lights look too light, so we're going to have to do a little bit of work. So if we press Command M or Control and M, we're going to start a curve adjustment layer, and it's the same shortcut in Photoshop, you'll be pleased to know. And I'm going to drag this dark end down. So if you think about this bottom line going from the darkest point in your image to the lightest point in your image, and this being where you want it to be. So we want this section here, which is our dark colours, to be darker. So we're going to drag that down because then it's going to be darker on this top sort of vertical line. Okay. Now at the same point it's taking all of those colours down a bit. So if there's a bit that you're thinking, well now that looks a bit too grey, it was quite a sunny day, we can lift that up a bit, like so. Okay. So you're getting something that looks like a really soft S. If you really want to push it, you can lift that up higher, but you can see that you're getting white spots. So in this particular image, it can just go back to that normal line there. Now, curves at the moment are being applied to the master, so that means it's happening to all layers equally. So whether that's the red, the green or the blue, but we can actually start to break it down. So you'll notice here it says red, green, blue and alpha. So the red is obvious, it's all the red elements. Green, again, all the green elements, and blue, all the blue elements. Alpha becomes a little bit more interesting. Alpha is what uses to cut out. So if you have something with a transparent background, for instance, then you'll probably find that on the alpha layer, and you can tweak that to either soften or sharpen your cutout. Morning Steph, morning Elizabeth, morning Max, and it's let me know that you're watching again, Sally. You're having some issues? Maybe? So when we go into red, you're going to see that that line changes to red. And you're now working with that layer independently. So if we do the same here, you're going to see that you can push the amount of red up, or we can take it down and get more of a bluey tinge. Now, if we look at our clouds up here, we want those to have more of that bluey tinge, which means we want to slowly tweak down this top end so that we get a bit of blue. So it starts to look like we've got a hint of a blue sky. So you don't want to go so blue it looks like there shouldn't be any clouds there, because obviously there were. Otherwise it wouldn't have come across so blown out. But we can put a hint of blue in there so it's going to look a little bit more realistic. The dot that we've put in here is what's holding as a pin to that centre line. So we can slide that up and keep those colours more or less normal until it gets up to that sky bit. Okay. Now, a lot of this is green, so if you want to push it up a bit, don't go too far because otherwise it's going to go like this, but if you just want to lift it up a little tiny bit so it's a bit more of a vibrant green, we can do that too. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my background now and click on it. If we go into adjustment, you see you've got a whole load of options here. So we've just done curves. You can use levels if you really don't feel that confident using curves, which is a bit more of a user friendly, but you can sometimes get odd results. And we have hue, saturation, so I'm just going to put default one in, and I'm going to just make it slightly more thingy, not too much. With most photo editing, you'll probably find there is things in the range of about 2% to about 7%. So you'll think, oh, that's not going to be enough to make a difference. It is. It makes a huge difference. So just stay on the side of caution, keep it low, and if need be, you can always do multiple layers of that as you get into your photo editing. So let's see if we can sort out these stripes. Making sure that you are clicked on your background layer. It's important in Affinity Photo. In Photoshop you don't tend to have this same kind of arrangement, but in Photo just make sure you always click back on that background layer. We're going to go into filters, and sometimes blur will do it, but you want to have one where you can keep your edges sharp. So let's try unsharp mask. Now sometimes this works wonders and other times it doesn't. So again, keep your radius low until you see a difference. And I'm just going to keep my threshold fairly low too until you see a difference. And it will get there eventually. There's bits that it's starting to lose. And some bits it's fallen out more, which I don't want it to do. So if you're finding that your editing is making some things worse, stop and go back and just see whether you can do something slightly different to get rid of. So let's try denoise. We can do a side-by-side comparison, which is what this little icon here is here. So we can see the difference that we're making. So if we look between these two, you'll see that these lines are a little bit more noticeable on this side to this side. Let's see if we can help them out a little bit. No, that's still not doing it for me. Let's go for something else then. Let's try diffuse. It's been a while since I've used diffuse. So diffuse, if you go to the extreme, so you'll see what I say, stick in the 2 to 3%, because if you go to extremes in photo editing, you'll get some really random things. Although that's quite pretty for turning into a background paper, it's not exactly going to be a good photo. As you can see, even at 1%, that's going to be a little bit too much. Let's see if it'll let me do 0.5. No, it's not. Which is a shame, because you're going to start to lose your definition here. The other thing to note is I've also not done that resize yet, so do all your editing first and then resize it down. I don't want to distort it, I want something let's try that one. It's just not liking it, is it? No, it's not. Okay. Wasn't going to do this, but okay. Gaussian blur. For starters, if you're going to be using Gaussian blur, do a duplicate layer. So that's Command and J or Control and J on your photo. Morning, Lorraine. We're going to go to filters, we're going to go to blur, and we're going to go to Gaussian blur. And you're going to think, oh no, what have I done? For starters, I'm going to take it out until the point where I can't see those lines anymore. And apply. This is why we do it on a copy. So now we want to overlay that almost. So let's see how we can do that. Some of the easiest ways are to use your blending modes. So the first two are going to look like a bit of a sledgehammer effect, but we don't want to lighten because that's going to bring those stripes back through. But if we go for something like overlay or soft light, we can minimise those lines a bit. That definitely takes them out, but no. And it's usually a case of just going through and finding the one that works. So if you find one that works really well and you can't see your lines, then use that one, but you're going to soften it by using your opacity, if that makes sense. So let's just so I can show you what I mean. Just try and find the best one. So if we go for this one, we can actually start to limit how much of that layer goes over the top. Now of course the other way that we can start to do that is by using a layer mask. So on all photo editors you will find that there is something that looks like this, a rectangle with a circle in the middle, and that means that you are creating a layer mask. Hi Julia, hi Zena. So with your layer mask we can actually start to hide elements of that top layer so that you can reveal the colour underneath. So if there's bits that you don't like the effect looks quite funky on the train and on the trees, on the people not so much. So we can actually start to soften these layers. So if we use an eraser, make sure your hardness is at 0 and your opacity we're going to take down to about 14. So as I said, with photo editing it's a little and build it up. So it's going to look like we're doing next to nothing, but trust me, it'll get there. Just so we can soften these edges, then we can get a bit more detailed. So it doesn't just look like the effect randomly stops. Okay. So I'm going to bring my size in, pop it up a little bit more. And again, a bit more masking so you can see that it's starting to come back to the original photo and losing a bit of that kind of effect that we have going on. Now around the edges here, you're also going to want to take that away so you're not getting that weird colour halo. As I said, I quite like it on the train, it looks kind of illustrative, but and around the edges. Like so. And same with these people in the distance. Just going to soften that out so they look a bit more like normal people. Okay. So with that done, we can now concentrate on our layer itself. So if we go like that, you can still see that there's a little bit. Alexa, stop. Oh, she's annoying. I can talk for the rest of the day, but she always seems to do it when we're live. Oh dear. Now where was I? So just want to soften out these last few stripes. So I'm going to select all my layers. Make sure you're happy with your people before you do this. And I'm going to flatten everything down. So document and flatten. In Photoshop it's in layers to do that. And let's sort out these stripes. So in your healing tools, you'll often see that there's something that looks like a plaster, something that looks like a patch, as in a bigger plaster, and then occasionally you'll get other things like the blemish removal tool and so on and so forth. So let's give it a point to heal from, shall we? I'm going to select this little bit of texture here and I'm going to paste that in there. So you're basically setting an origin point using your Alt key, and then you're going to paint it in elsewhere. So press Alt, and you can see it's going to put a little plus symbol, and then in your brush you can see it's got that texture, and we can put it anywhere. It's quite fun for doing faces, that. And over here we're going to do the same. So what you don't want to do is think, okay, this line here is straight, so I just brush along here. No, because that's going to interfere with your image. You always want to try and go vertically in terms of, because we've got all these strong verticals here, you want to make sure that you're trying to keep those in. And it's It's mainly the big stripe I'm worried about, because they're the ones that will show. And it doesn't even have to match precisely. It's just looking for something that has that same level of texture. See, that's going to be too soft. Let's try that. There we go. So next week I thought it would be really good to do some time concentrating on techniques. So I'm thinking on Monday that we're going to concentrate on scoring and folding using the scan and cut, because unlike some other machines, it doesn't have an option for a scoring tool yet. I'll say yet, they'll get around to it eventually. So I thought it would be a good one to have a kind of session on different ways that we can do it and how they will look in your projects. I'm just going to take that one out there. That one out there. Okay. Now, because we took away that layer off these, we just need to just quickly just tweak these. So especially in the darker colours, because that's where it's going to show up more. Let's zoom out. Now we need to resize our document. So in Affinity Photo it gives you the options to do the document or the canvas. You want to do document. In Photoshop it's image or canvas, you want to do the image. Okay, and it's going to give you the measurement in pixels, because that's what you can see nice and easily. However, in canvas we measured our frame in millimeters, so I just swapped that over to millimeters. DPI you want to keep at 300, and in Affinity Photo you have 4 options to choose from. In Photoshop you have about 10 now, but I'm just going to stick to bilinear. So I want 87.6, longest one first, 150.9, oh dear, Natty. And that's got its 87. Now because that's the shorter number, I'm going to put that up to 87.6. And we're going to resize. Like so. And that is good to go. So we can go to Save As, which is going to save it in Affinity's format. But what we want to be able to do in terms of using it for Canvas, you want to go to Export and you want to save it as a JPEG. Now I'm going to put it back on the USB just so that they're both together, but you can save this to your desktop or anywhere else. And at the moment it's got that 00008, so rather than oversave it, I'm going to just put edited and save. So there's your first kind of illustrative photo done. Now with the other photos that we scanned, you can also do that same technique if you wanted to. If you're confident and you know what you're doing, then you can set up an action so that when you do it the second time round, you record it, and then the third, fourth, fifth, and however many going forward, it will actually do all of those actions for you. apart from the rubber stamping. So, thanks Emma, thanks Carol, hi Carol H, hi Samantha, hi Nikki, hi Lynn. So Emma, you're watching both on Facebook and YouTube, multitasking, and hi Tina. Hi Hilda. Okay, so don't be afraid to say hi and let me know that you're watching. If you have any questions about what I've just done, then do pop them in the comments or have a go. As I said, I'm back live at 10, so I'm probably only going to be sticking on here for about another 15 minutes, if that. So if you have any questions, please, please, please don't be afraid to ask. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So even if it's just how did you get the image open in the first place, then I can show you that. So in terms of printing, what I would say is rather than just going to command and print, which would print that one image, I would actually lay all the images out onto an A4 sheet so that you can print them from one sheet, and it will actually save you paper and ink. So particularly if you're using a laser printer, because otherwise all that rest of that paper is going to do is just go in your waste toner, and that's no point. Mum's watching on YouTube. Okay. Multitasking. Waiting for birthday dinner. Whose birthday is it then? Is it yours, Emma? So at 10 o'clock I am doing a using up your scraps stream for Pretty Gets Gritty. So that's going to be fragments of die cuts, fragments of stamping where things have gone wrong, so that you're just using little sections of elements, and we're working on a tin. So this is going to be a fun one to do. So it's going to be a case of open the lid for my rather aged tin, and you'll see what I mean. And there's going to be a little scene inside. Ah, happy birthday, Emma. Everybody say happy birthday. I have some photos which have got lines on when printed. Would this be the printer? Yeah. Okay, so the really easy technique to get rid of lines in print as opposed to in your image on your computer is to do a nozzle clean. So particularly, obviously, with inkjets, they each have nozzles. So if they clog up, that's when you can start to see that you get stripes. Most inkjet printers have like a printout that goes through each nozzle that you can print and see which one's blocked. It used to be once upon a time that the cartridges and the printheads were separate so that you could replace them, but no. These days it's all in one, so you'll probably notice they go away when you change cartridge. But if you do a good nozzle clean, if you're using one of the eco tank systems, you'll have to have a look in your manual to see how you can do that, because eco tanks are a bit different. Lots of happy birthdays. Yep, Affinity Photo is really cool. It's not that far off Photoshop, to be honest. It's like Photoshop on a diet. So it's lost all the unnecessary flab. And it's really just concentrated on its core basics. And it has different modes up here too. So this one you'll recognise from Designer, which is your export persona, but these others in the middle you're not going to recognise. So let's select the layer and go back to photo. So as long as your layer's blue, go on the first one. So this is liquefy. So liquefy you can use if you know, on magazine cover images you've got all the celebs all touched up. That is done mainly through liquefy, where they've nipped in the waist and widened the hips and moved the cheekbones up a bit. That's all done through liquefy. So it's not the best image to show you on, but I can certainly. So the idea being that you can pull sections, you can push them, and I will go cancel just so that I don't leave that in place. You have the develop persona. So this is more so if you're working with a digital SLR or a smartphone, where it's actually captured in RAW, so that you can actually then control how it adapts that RAW into a photo. So it's a bit like, going really old fashioned now, when you had your film camera and you had your negative, when you took that to Boots or wherever to get it developed, they would control how much contrast there was in that image, what was the colour temperature, and this is what you do in this section. So you're literally developing your own photos from the original. So it does work better where you've used a digital SLR or a higher range camera. Your smartphone can also do RAW photos in most cases. So if you've got an Apple iPhone, for instance, then you would be well away with that section. And it's how you can do straight off. You can see things like white balance, so that's going to tone it to the warm or the cool. You've got shadows and highlights to do your contrast. You've got profiles, so it's literally. So if I had taken this with my Sony, for instance, it would actually tell me which lens it's taken it with, which is why I say it's particularly good with digital SLRs, because you can set up a lens profile for each of your lenses, which is really cool. So some have it already set up, so if you're using Photoshop even in their raw setup, it actually has a lot of the lenses already done, so it's really easy to just go, that's my lens, and it does it all for you and goes, right, okay, well I know the distortion in that lens is this, so I will correct that, and it's like snap and off you go. And you do have additional elements in here such as noise reduction, noise addition, because there are occasions when you are going to want to add noise, believe it or not. And then you have all your toning, and then you can see basically what you've actually done. It's quite cool. I'm going to cancel that, and finally the last one. So this one is the tone map, and we can see here that, you know, when we go on these different ones, it's really going to push the boundaries of what our actual image looks like. So we can go really detailed, and you can see how much of that texture it's actually pulling through now. It's really quite funky. We can go cool, we can go high contrast, black and white, or dramatic. Actually, I really like the colours in that. Yeah, I will cancel that. So there's lots of cool things that you can play with in photo. So the most important thing is to get out there and take photos. So who would like me to do a photo challenge for the next month? Because autumn is a fabulous time to go and do photography, because the colours are going to be stunning, especially given that we've had such a hot summer. It's going to be really quite vivid this autumn. Let Let me see. Comments. Could be the next book. Yep, it could very well be the next book after Project Book 2 for the Scan and Cut. It'd be good to break that up before I go into the next one, because I have a new book planned. So I can't write them quicker as I plan them. I wish I could, because otherwise there'd be like 10 books out there now. I think I'm rattling them out as a rate, so I'm doing okay. But yeah, Project Book I want to come out next month, so I'm going to have to really knuckle down next week and get it done. So it's not too bad. We're about halfway through, I think. No? Yes, you need to play with it, Linda. It's lots of fun. Lots and lots of fun. And hi, Corinne. Any other questions before I go? In terms of photo or Photoshop, or dare I say Gimp, or Corel Photo-paint. Photo competition would be good. Okay, that sounds cool. I will put up a 30-day challenge and get you to get out there and take lots of photos. And I might even do a double page spread project so that you can put them all in after, which would be really cool. So I'm going to call that a day for an hour or so. Can you blank faces out? If you need to, you can do a blur and do it that way. So the next challenge that I said about for this month is going to be going live later today. So it is a card challenge. So if you've seen the blog piece that I've put up on Creative Fabrica, you've had a sneak peek, because that is the file you're going to be working with. So you can all head over there to my Creative Fabrica page and you can see what I did last. So it's the multi-aperture card. So I will be expecting exciting things. You can decorate it however you want with whoever you want. So if you want to do some Altenew layered flowers with it, that's fine. If you want to do some chocolate baroque images, that's more than fine. If you want to go grungy with it and do pretty gritty, that's fine too. If you want to go, I'm trying to think, really obvious one. You could even go wordy stamps and go down like Ink Road or something like that. And morning for Mina. So I will pop that up on the group, so keep an eye out. And it may be that I'll have to put the files up on Discord. So if you're not on our Discord server, I will put up an invite post as well, so you can join up on there. And then, because Discord will allow us to share SVGs and Facebook won't, basically, it's the easier place for us to put uploads and things. So take care for now, and I will see you all in just over an hour. Bye for now.